at ano ang nakuha nila. Knowing that and why it happened and seeking accountability is to our best interest. But at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that this will not happen again, not only by upgrading the system or replacing the equipment, but also making sure that the institutions running these are empowered and capacitated. Thus, we also tackle today Senate Bill number 1003, filed by Senator Sani Angara, which aims to strengthen Caap as an institution. Furthermore, in our discussion about air transportation safety, it is only pressing that we also tackle Senate Bill number 1121, or the proposed Philippine Transportation Safety Board, or PTSB, whose primary mandate is not only to investigate on transport related accidents, but to also look at its causes and help prevent them. Kasi ngayon, ang nag-iimbestiga, DOTR at CAAP rin. Pero sila yung involved mismo. So, it will be really important to ensure impartiality. E di iniimbestigahan mo yung sarili mo, paano yun? Furthermore, in our discussion about air transportation safety, last Congress, the 18th Congress, we were able to pass on third reading the consolidated measure, which was subsequently approved by both houses. But unfortunately, it was vetoed. Apparently, it was redundant. But how can it be redundant? Having an independent body, which we don't have now. There are many theories about being posited, but the only real answer will have to come from Kaap, as it has all the logs of the incident. It is important to note that Kaap follows the non-punitive nature of investigations, much like what we propose in the Philippine Transport Safety Board. Kaap does not investigate on pain of penalty or contempt because public safety should always be the principal goal of investigators. While the loudest call right now may have been for heads to roll, it is proposed that the hearing adopts a non-punitive tone for now, especially to technical officers like CAP engineers, if we are to exact the truth behind the incident and prevent the same from happening again. Accountability will follow after laying out the steps to ensure the safety of passengers. So with this, I would like to acknowledge the senators present here today, my vice chair, Senator J.V. Ejercito, who provides me with a lot of technical knowledge on transportation. We also have here, in order of arrival, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, our majority leader, Senator Villanueva, Sherman. We also have Senator Nancy Binay, our Senate Pro Temp, Senator Lauren Legarda, our minority member, Senator Risa Hontiveros, and Senator Bongo. May I ask the committee secretary to read for the record all the resource persons that are logged in. And for those who are present online, please turn on your cameras. I would also like to acknowledge our senators who are present online, Senator Bong Revilla and Senator Robin Hood Padilla. Meron pa bang mga senators na hindi ko nakikita? Okay, Secretariat, please read into the records the ones who are present here today with their designation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Your Honors. For today's public hearing, the following resource persons are present. Honorable Jaime Bautista, Secretary, Department of Transportation. USEC for Aviation and Airports, Robert Co. Lim. Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, Captain Manuel Antonio Tamayo. Together with him is Deputy Director General for Administration, Attorney Danjun Lucas. Deputy Director General for Operations, Captain Edgardo Diaz. Manager of the Philippine Air Traffic Management Center, Ms. Anna Papag. Also with them, Chief Aviation Service Safety Inspector, Captain Florendo Jose C. Aquino. Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Marian Raimundo. And Power Plant in charge of the Manila CNS ATM facility, Mr. Raymond De Jesus. Also here is the ALP on duty, Mr. Radante V. Hebron, Attorney Edelisa Irugin of the Corporate Planning Office, Attorney Roberto Martin S. Buenaventura, Assistant Director General for Enforcement and Legal Affairs, OIC of Procurement Division, Attorney John View Masiglat, and Attorney Nestor Mendoza, Corporate Secretary. From the Civil Aeronautics Board, we have Executive Director Attorney Carmelo Arcilia. Together with him is Acting Deputy Executive Director Maria Elben Moro and Acting Board Secretary Clarabel Ann Laxina. From the Manila International Airport Authority, we have General Manager Cesar Chiyong, Mr. Brian Ko, Senior Assistant General Manager, Assistant General Manager Ms. Irene Montalvo, and Mr. Enrico Gonzalez, Assistant General Manager for Engineering. Also present is the OIC President and CEO of Clark International Airport Corporation, Mr. Darwin Conanan. Virtually present, we have General Manager Julius Neri from Mactan Cebu International Airport Authority. Also present is former Director General of Caap, Lieutenant General William Hotchkiss II. Together with him is General Rodante Joya, former Deputy Director General of Caap. From the Department of Tourism, we have Honorable Maria Esperanza Cristina Garcia Frasco. We also have from the Department of Migrant Workers, Yusek Hans Leo Kadakdak, Undersecretary for Welfare and Foreign Employment. Also present virtually from the DBM, we have Director Elena Regina Brillantes, Ms. Maria Cecilia Socorro Abogado, and Attorney Carlos Borja. From the AFP, we have Colonel Robert Vitas, Assistant Chief of Staff for Command and Control Communications Computer System. Together with him, we have Colonel Ryan Rainy Sonsa, Colonel Alvin Hate, Colonel Fernando Ventura, and Colonel Francis Neri. From the Department of National Defense, uh, we have Assistant Secretary Asik Joselito B. Ramos for Logistics, Acquisitions, and Self-Reliant Defense Posture, Colonel Robert Vitas, Colonel Ryan Sonsa, and Colonel Fernando Ventura. From the National Security Council, we have Director General Clarita Carlos. Together with him is Major Jim Donaire. From the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, we have retired Police Lieutenant General Ricardo De Leon. From the Department of Information and Communications Technology, virtually present, we have Honorable Ivan John Uy. From the Governance Commission for GOCCs, we have retired Justice Alex L. Quiros. And from the Commission on Audit, we have Director Emma Moises, and Ms. Virginia A. Lero, State Auditor of the COA Caap. For our major air carriers, we have present from Cebu Pacific Air, Mr. Michael Ivan Shaw, Corporate Affairs Officer, Attorney Paterno Mantaring, and Attorney Maria Cecilia G. Natividad. From Air Asia Philippines, we have Captain Adrian Acorda, Captain Gomer Monreal. And from Philippine Airlines, we have Attorney Carlos Fernandez and Captain Leo Bernabe. For stakeholders, present here today, we have Mr. Samuel David from the International Air Transport Association, Mr. Alfred Adriano from the Airline Operators Council, Mr. Rabi Vincent Ang from the Air Carriers Association of the Philippines, Mr. Genaro Velasquez from the Board of Airline Representatives. From Meralco, we have Vice President Mr. Joseph Alan C. Baltazar and Mr. Danilo Aquilio, Head of Energy Services, Enterprise and National Government. From the Sumitomo Corporation, we have Attorney Lloyd Chadwick Lim. From Thales Australia, we have Director Harry Nuske and their partner, Attorney Jomini Nazareno from the Romulo Law Office. From the P2 Road, the supplier of the UPS, we have Vice President Eric J. Soriano. From the Institute of Integrated Electrical Engineers of the Philippines, we have the National President, Engineer Linton Bage. And we have Captain Benjamin Solis and Dr. Maria Cherilyn Salazar Rodolfo, lead convener of Safe Travel Alliance. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. I would like the Secretariat also to administer the oath for our guests today. Please stand, raise your right hand. Also, the ones attending online, please turn on your camera.
To all research persons, especially those attending virtually, please open your camera. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding? Thank you. Madam Chair, for the record, all those who took their oath answered in the affirmative.
Thank you to our Secretary. Now, I would like to ask if there are any senators who would like to have a brief, stress on brief opening statement.
Madam,
I'll acknowledge first in order of arrival, Senator Jinggoy.
good afternoon, Madam Chair, fellow members of this Committee on Public Services, and to all our resource persons. I filed resolution number 392 to conduct an inquiry on the reported power outage and technical issues in the Ninoy Aquino International Airport on New Year's Day, or January 1, 2023, which resulted in cancellation of hundreds of flights, inconvenience of thousands of passengers, and shutdown of Philippine airspace, thereby further adversely impacting the image of the country as a tourism destination and hurting the national economy. I filed this resolution with the purpose of ensuring that this fiasco or similar incident will never happen again. It aggravates the already unpleasant image of the NAIA, which is being regularly labeled as one of the worst and most stressful airports in the world. This calls for remedial legislation and urgent action from the authorities to save NAIA from becoming a national disgrace or pambansang kahiyan. We need sophisticated technologies and competent manpower and experts to ensure uninterrupted airport operations and to defend it against sabotage, cybersecurity attacks, and other threats. And I joined the committee in identifying the actual problems and to come up with the needed solutions by crafting meaningful measures to urgently address this. This is of utmost importance because it is a matter of national security and safety. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Jinggoy. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Mark Villar and Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Senator Joel, you may proceed with your opening statement, after which we'll have Senator Nancy in order of arrival, then Senator Risa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chairperson, esteemed colleagues, and to everyone present in today's hearing, good afternoon. Madam Chairperson, just hours ago, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration experienced a similar incident. And while misery may love company, the sad fact is that on New Year's Day, many of our kababayans were indeed miserable. We all welcome 2023 with high hopes for the new year. Unfortunately, at 9:49 a.m. Philippine time, the festive mood of the previous hours was dashed by the shutdown of the Philippine airspace, stemming from a problem in our air traffic control system. Habang nangyayari po ito, Madam Chair, marami po tayong natanggap ng mga texts, messages, at iba-iba pa sa social media pages natin na humihingi po ng tulong. Alam ko, lahat tayo nakatanggap, Madam Chair. May mga naririnig tayo na mahigit 8 oras na naghintay sa airport. Meron namang mga napilitang gumastos ng mas malaki dahil na-delay ang flight nila ng 3 pang araw, Madam Chair, dahil po sa pangyayaring ito. May mga OFWs na umiiyak dahil nangangamba silang wala nang maaabutang trabaho pagbalik sa abroad. Marami pa pong ibang kwento. Nang magbukas po ang Senado noong Enero 3, agad nating inihain ang Senate Resolution number 390 upang maimbestigahan ang pangyayaring ito. Nakipag-ugnayan po tayo kaagad sa ating Senate President, Mig Subiri, at kung natatandaan niyo po, Madam Chair, sa inyo po bilang Chairperson ng Committee on Public Services. Senator Grace po, maraming salamat at nagagalak po tayo na nagpatawag po kayo agad ng meeting upang malaman natin kung ano talaga ang nangyari, panagutin ang sino mang may kasalanan rito at siguraduhin hindi na po mauulit muli ang insidenteng ito. Madam Chair, we believe that this hearing is not about pointing fingers. Rather, we need to establish accountability because this incident has far-reaching implications, not only economically, security, national security, but also in terms of the mental health of the people who were affected of the delays. During this hearing, we want to know, was this really an unforeseen event, Madam Chair, or was this merely a disaster waiting to happen? Meron po bang mga ganitong insidenteng nangyari na noon? Bakit hindi po na-correct? Totoo po bang outdated na ang sistema ng ating air traffic control system? Nagkulang po ba sa maintenance? Ang mga equipment natin kaya nagkaroon ng problema itong circuit breaker ng communications and navigation system. This representation hopes that this hearing can shed light on these issues with a view of ensuring that our country's air traffic management system is up to par with highest global standards. Higit po sa lahat, umaasa po tayo hindi na ito mauulit muli. We look forward to collaborating with and hearing from our resource persons from the DOTR, Caap, other agencies and stakeholders to get to the bottom of the issue. Maraming salamat, Madam Chair, and may God bless us all.
Thank you, Senator Joel. After Senator Nancy, I'm sorry, I think Senator Lauren arrived ahead. Shoot. Okay, Senator Lauren first, and then Senator Nancy, then Senator
Senator Villar, Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Madam Chair. I will not make an opening statement because I believe that we need to hear from the resource persons. I just wanted to advise the body that I filed Senate Resolution 418 that will be referred to the body and let the explanatory note be inserted into the records. And second, just a friendly reminder to all our resource persons, especially the agencies who are accountable to the Filipino people and the travelers, that let us not please use the US outage as an excuse in any manner, in any reason that we may give. So they may have the reasons for having undergone that. We want to get to the bottom of the outage in NAIA so that it is not replicated, does not happen again in the future. Just a fair, friendly warning or reminder, wag po natin gagamitin ang nangyari sa Amerika kung sila malaking bansa, tayo, nangyayari talaga yan. Hindi po ganun. Gusto natin malaman scientifically ano po ang naganap. Salamat.
Yan. Pinangunahan na ni Senator Lauren. Maraming salamat. Senator Nancy, you're now recognized.
Magandang hapon, Madam Chairperson, colleagues and guests. Maraming gustong magtanong, masamang pangitain ba ang nangyari sa NAIA sa simula ng taon? This year, 2023, was supposed to be a pivotal year for us. A year when after being bogged down by the pandemic, we could finally take off again to reach our shared dreams. Yet right on the first day of the new year, we suffered a failure to launch that hugged the headlines not only in our country, but in every news channel and newspapers across the globe. 637 flights canceled or grounded, more than 78,000 passengers affected. Di pa po natin na-factor in ang impact sa negosyo at ekonomiya at ang implikasyon sa turismo in the 2 days that the Philippine airspace virtually stopped. The passengers have since moved on, but sadly, the incident has left a bad impression on us in our effort to sell the Philippines abroad. This anomaly is an embarrassment that will not go away soon. The New Year's Day fiasco is a shame that we all bear and a responsibility that we all share. Nandito po tayo hindi para magturuan o maghanap ng sisisihin. Nandito po tayo para alamin ang ugat ng problema at hanapan ng pangmatagalang solusyon para di na muling maulit ang insidente. We cannot afford to drag our feet, especially not when we are starting to gain some headway towards recovery. What is important is to immediately identify the problems and how far and deep these have spread, and do our best to resolve them and ensure that they do not occur again. We need to act decisively so that we can convince not only foreign tourists, but our own people that they will not suffer through hell to get to experience the Philippines. Ayaw po nating muling maulit ito at tayo'y muling mapahiya. Our tourism industry is targeting 4.8 million international visitors for this year. We are slated to host international events such as the FIBA World Cup, along with major trade shows and conferences. Kaya po nandito po tayong lahat ngayon para pag-usapan di lamang po ang nangyari, kundi pati na rin kung paano makakatulong ang Senado sa pagtagdag ng pondo, sa pagpanday ng batas at polisiya, at iba pang mga isyong kinakaharap ng ating mga airport. Maraming salamat po, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Senator Nancy. Senator Risa Hontiveros is now recognized.
Salamat, Madam Chair, at magandang hapon po sa inyo at sa lahat po. Ang sabi ng Caap, ang meron sila ay uninterruptible power supply o UPS. Pero ang nakapagtataka, kung alin pa ang sinasabing uninterruptible, ay siya pang na-interrupt. Hindi yan katanggap-tanggap. May mga usap-usapan din na ito ay simpleng glitch o simpleng bug. Ngunit kung ito ay nagdulot ng napakaraming delays at cancellations sa flights man o sa mga personal at work appointments ng ating mga kababayan, this isn't something I'm comfortable calling a mere glitch or bug dahil buhay ng napakaraming tao ang nakataya dito. Ilan sa mga problemang una ng tinukoy ng Caap ay yung depektibong blower sa isang UPS at yung sirang circuit breaker. Ngunit hindi yan pasok sa tinatawag na acts of God at yung mga insidenteng nagkataon lang. Kaya ang isa sa inaasahan nating matutukoy ng ating komite ay kung ang insidenteng ito ay man-made. There should be no scapegoats or free passes from liability. Kasalanan ba ng tao? May kapabayaan ba? Kinulang ba sa maintenance? Kinailangan bang palitan ang mga outdated na piyesa? This could have been much worse. An example, there was a report that the paths of two planes were dangerously close to each other and could have resulted in a mid-air collision. A tragedy narrowly, fortunately, avoided. At sa huli, Madam Chair, kung mga napaka-basic at napaka-simpleng desisyon o kakulangan pala ng iilan ang siyang nakapagpatigil ng lahat ng paliparan sa buong bansa, dapat silang managot sa batas. If someone became sloppy, they must be held accountable. Salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Risa. Now, before we begin our line of questioning, we would like to have Caap. Senator Bong Revilla is raising his hand. Yes.
Yes, Senator Revilla. All right. I have a short opening statement.
Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Magandang hapon po. Sa aking kinakapatid, Chairperson Grace po, colleagues, and fellow public servants, and all our resource persons present in today's hearing. I would like to thank the Chair for the sense of urgency to discuss various issues affecting our country's civil aviation. I join our colleagues as we seek for the truth behind the recent system glitch. I filed Senate Resolution 391 in support for this investigation. Nais ko ring malinawan sa mga nangyari dahil ang higit na 60,000 kababayan nating apektado ng insidente ay hindi biro. It is unacceptable, especially because of the massive inconvenience it has caused the people. Dagdag na pasakit ang delays and cancellations ng mga flights, lalo na ang hirap at bigat sa bulsa ng rebooking. Hindi ito hangad nating pambungad sa bagong taon at sa inaasahan nating pagpapalakas ng ating ekonomiya at turismo. Paano ba tayo hahakbang pasulong? Naway ating masapul ang mga posibleng solusyon. We aren't here to fix the blame. We are here to fix the problem. More specifically, sa ganitong sitwasyon, yung pinaka-importante, paano ang mga pasahero? Have their needs been catered to when the incident occurred? And even more importantly, we have to determine what really happened. Was it a mere technical or equipment failure? Or was there negligence? Sino bang dapat managot? Meron bang economic sabotage? Nais din nating ipaalam sa mga kasama natin sa hapong ito na mayroon din po tayong inakdang panukala na naglalain na bumuo ng Caap Modernization and Development Fund. Said fund will be for consistent upgrading of standards systems, and procedures prescribed for civil aviation and related functions so that we will be up to par with international standards. Sa pagkakataong ito, mahalaga na bago magturuan ay magtulungan. Instead of pointing fingers, we must come together and unite all efforts so that incidents like this do not happen again. Isang kumpas ng mga hanay ng gobyerno, pribadong sektor at mga grupo upang higit na mapagtibay ang ating mga sistema, mekanismo para sa maayos na daloy ng serbisyo sa publiko. I look forward to our fruitful discussion. Maraming salamat, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bong Revilla. I was also informed that Senator Bongo has a brief opening statement. You are now recognized, Senator Go.
Salamat, Madam Chair. I laud the chairperson of this committee, Senator Grace po, for immediately calling for an inquiry of this airport fiasco. A mere technical glitch inconvenienced thousands of airline passengers on the very first day of the year. The most affected were those who simply do not have the options to just leave the airport and rebook their flights. The tourists who were hoping to have a wonderful experience in the Philippines, but instead were faced with inconvenience. And of course, OFWs who face the possibility of losing their jobs. It also endangered the lives of thousands who are above our airspace. I agree with my colleagues that this is a serious issue that could have grave national security implications. It is unacceptable that critical elements of the country's transportation system could just shut down due to damaged circuit breaker. Dahil dito, down po ang buong Philippine airspace, paralyzed agad tayo. Huwag nating ipahiya ang ating bansa. Napakalaki po ng epekto nito, hindi lang sa pasahero, kundi pati na rin po sa buong bansa. May implikasyon ito sa negosyo, sa turismo at sa buhay po ng bawat Pilipino. Nagpakahirap po si Pangulong Marcos na makakuha ng investments mula sa ibang bansa, kaya huwag nating sayangin ang pinaghirapan natin dahil gusto nating tuluyang makabangon muli ang ating ekonomiya. More than that, huwag nating ilagay sa alanganin ang kaligtasan po ng Pilipino at ng bansa dahil sa maring kapabayaan ng iilan. Pinaghirapan po ng Duterte administration ang pag-improve ng ating air transport system. Hindi lang itong communications, navigation, surveillance, air traffic management or CNS-ATM, which started using in 2019 to decongest our airports, especially NAIA, 200 airport projects, including long-delayed international airport projects, and the rehabilitation of airports severely damaged by natural calamities in previous years. Kabilang na dyan ang Mactan Cebu International Airport, Clark International Airport, Bohol Panglao International Airport, at marami pang iba. Sana po hindi ito mapabayaan. And in fact, nahuli na nga po ang Davao City, natapos na po ang termino ni Pangulong Duterte, hindi pa po naumpisahan ang Davao City. Madam Chair, it was admitted by our transport officials that the CNS ATM is working. Just like any other equipment and software, it just needs to be maintained and upgraded. This is therefore not an equipment failure. We must also look into possibility of human error or negligence as the cause of this fiasco. Ayaw ko pong magsisihan tayo dito, pero kailangan po ng taong bayan ng paliwanag kung ano ba talaga nangyari at ano pang kapabayaan at sino pong dapat managot at ano pang pwede nating gawin para maiwasan po ang pangyayaring ito. The government has the obligation to its citizens to explain what happened, especially to those who were affected. Bigyan ng paliwanag at hingin po ang pagpapatawad ng mga pasahero na stranded, naghintay ng buong araw at mga natulog sa airport. Ano bang pwede nating gawin na hindi na ito maulit? Second, Madam Chair, ano bang ginagawa natin para maibsan ang pahirap sa mga kababayan nating naapektuhan? The passengers who were affected must be entitled to VIP treatment during these types of unfortunate incidents. I understand that the airlines are also victims in this fiasco. Transport authorities should have anticipated the influx of passengers since it's the holiday season and employed additional personnel and services to assist the passengers. Dapat po tinutulungan po natin ang ating airline sa pag-asikaso dahil sa totoo lang, hindi rin po nila ito kasalanan. Nakausap ko rin po yung isang airline company na-normalize po yung sitwasyon after 2 days at talagang ginawa naman nila ang kanilang lahat para maasikaso po yung mga pasahero, including providing meals and accommodation. I commend the Department of Migrant Workers for swiftly deploying teams to assist stranded overseas Filipino workers. Mabuti na lang po at nandyan ang ating Department of Migrant Workers or OFWs na hindi pinabayaan ng ating mga OFWs na maaaring naapektuhan. Marami sa ating mga OFWs ang nangamba na mawala ng trabaho kung hindi agad nakabalik sa kanilang trabaho sa ibang bansa. In this regard, I request the DMW to continue assisting our OFWs. Hindi ito natatapos lang sa pagbibigay ng merienda at akomodasyon sa kanila. Siguraduhin po natin na tanggapin sila ng kanilang mga employer, walang mawala ng trabaho at hindi bawasan ang sweldo nila at hindi dapat maging dagdag gasto sa kanila. I also urge, Madam Chair, the review of the Air Passenger Bill of Rights so that in times of like this, when neither the airline nor the passenger is at fault, compensation must be provided by the government. We have a budget for this in 2023 under the Civil Aeronautics Board amounting to 147 million. So we must ask about their plan as where to use this budget. Kung hindi ba ngayon, saan nila ito planong gagamitin itong budget nito. Lastly, Madam Chair, I have received reports that X-ray machines and scanners at the airport departure entrance were recently removed to accommodate the concerns of passengers to have faster and more convenient travel. Mas lumuwag po ang ating security para mapabilis po ang proseso sa loob ng airport. Kaya lang po, napansin ko, tinanggal po yung first layer. Ang tanong dyan is, this is an issue of security and convenience. Do not compromise, do not risk the safety of our passengers. This may be terrorism waiting to happen. Hindi mawawala ang terrorism threat. Nangyari po yan sa Davao bombing noong 2003. Ayaw nating magsisihan pagkatapos na meron na pong mangyari. Hindi po ba makukompromiso ang kaligtasan ng mga pasahero dito? Paano madidetect ang pagpasok ng kontrabando o bomba sa airport kung wala na po yung mga X-ray sa first layer? We must not put the safety of our passengers at risk. We want, while we want convenience, we must not forget that it must be our primary concern to ensure the safety of our people. Kaya naman po, hinihimo ko ang ating NAIA, tingnan po ng mabuti at dapat po magkaroon ng increase sa police visibility ang aviation security po ng PNP para masiguro na walang threat po sa safety ng ating mga pasahero. Napapansin ko kasi diretso na pong nakakapasok yung mga pasahero without check. Ginagaya na po yung sa ibang bansa. Yun na po napansin ko sa NAIA 2 and sa NAIA 3, Madam Chair. Medyo sa tingin ko delikado. Kung kaya na ba nating ma-detect itong mga bagahe, yung maaaring may mga masasamang plano. That is all, Madam Chair. Dapat magawan kaagad ng solusyon at hindi na po maulit ang ganitong pangyari. Siguraduhin nating ligtas ang ating mga airport at huwag pabayaan ang karapatan ng mga pasaherong naapektuhan. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bongo. I would like now to ask Caap to do their presentation, after which we'll open the floor for questions. I would like to remind our colleagues we want an efficient hearing to cover as much as possible. We have a lot of valuable resource persons present, so please keep your questions short. We will time you for 2 minutes, after which you will have a chance to ask again after the first round is concluded. We will now ask the Caap, Captain Tamayo to please. Do you have a visual presentation or?
I have a visual presentation.
Okay, the technical support, please have it on cue.
If I may, ma'am. To the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Public Services, Honorable Senator Grace Poe, members of the committee, government officials, guests, and fellow public servants, good afternoon. We are here today with the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Secretary Jaime Bautista, and colleagues from other airport authorities to shed light on what transpired last 1 January 2023 and hopefully provide clarity to all the questions of this honorable committee and the Filipino people. On behalf of Caap and DOTR, we again extend our sincerest apologies to all those who were inconvenienced and greatly affected by this circumstance, which is something we're not proud of. But we take this as a lesson and we manifest to this honorable committee and the fellow Filipinos that we take full responsibility and accountability for what happened. We commit to see through this ordeal, remain transparent in all our dealings, and of service to the Filipino in ensuring that our skies are safe. With the permission of the Honorable Chairperson, I will now proceed with my presentation.
Go ahead, sir. We're eagerly anticipating that.
History of the Air Traffic Management System. No, wala.
I would like to acknowledge the presence of our minority floor leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, online.
If I may, Madam Chair. The Communication Navigation Surveillance System for Air Traffic Management, or CNSATM, using satellite technology enhances the safety, reliability, and efficiency of our air traffic and airspace of Manila FIR, or Flight Information Region. It was inaugurated 16 January 2018. The CNS ATM added 10 radars from the previous 3, which brings the total to 13, which are located all over the country. Currently, Caap can cover 100% of the Philippine airspace safely and efficiently. Next slide, please. Its procurement commenced in 2009, which was divided to Package 1 and Package 2. Next slide. Package 1 is the construction of the Air Traffic Management Center, or the ATMC, in Pasay City. Package 2, on the other hand, is the construction of all other facilities to complete the CNS ATM. Next slide. Construction of the ATMC commenced in December 2010 but was suspended due to a May 2011 notice of disallowance. Next slide. The disallowance was appealed and was eventually lifted in May 2013 through COA NBank Decision 2013-035. The project resumed in August of 2013. Next slide. After 4 years, the CNS ATM was completed and turned over to Caap in 16 October 2017 and inaugurated in 2018. Thus, the ATMC building became the Air Traffic Management Center that we now know. Next slide. To recap, here is the timetable of events pertaining to the CNS ATM. Your Honors, now we proceed to the discussion of the incident last 1 January 2020.
Actually, Captain Tamayo, there's just a quick interjection, just a question from Senator Jinggoy and Senator Nancy.
How much is the total package? Package 1 and package 2?
The package 1 and package 2 cost almost about $10 billion, sir. Pesos, sir.
Billion pesos?
Pesos, yes, sir.
You may proceed, Colonel Captain Tamayo.
Disruption of the CNS ATM. Cause of disruption. At around 9:49 a.m., 1 January 2023, the UPS, or uninterruptible power supply, de-energized the CNS ATM equipment as it detected the flaw. This is a safety feature of the UPS to protect the equipment from further damage. Next slide, please. To illustrate, the primary power source is from Meralco with an input of 380 volts and 220 volts. The secondary power source are two 750 kVA diesel engine generators. These are connected to the automatic transfer switch, which will transfer the electrical power to the two UPS. Lighting and air conditioning system are directly connected to the power source. The UPS is necessary in order to provide continuous electric power during power interruption, and it also provides clean power to the load. On the other hand, the AVR is used when both UPS are under maintenance for redundancy. The distribution panel contains the circuit breaker wherein the electrical lines for the CNS ATM system equipment in the ATMC building is connected. If you will see on the screen is a broken line. It separates the power plant building from the ATMC building. Two sets of 3 circuit breakers are shown on the slide and are all located in the equipment room of the ATMC building. These 2 sets of circuit breakers supply the redundant power to the CNS ATM system and equipment. Each CNS ATM system equipment is provided with circuit breaker of smaller rating. This is the flow of the electricity for the CNS ATM system equipment. Please take note of that red circuit breaker on the right side. The issue was a faulty signal coming from a damaged circuit breaker. That's the red one. Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, or CICC, conducted a parallel investigation of the incident on 3 January 2023. The result indicates that the incident is unlikely due to a cyber attack. However, the damaged circuit breaker and power transfer switch were turned over to them for forensic investigation. Next slide. For a better appreciation, here is an animation of the regular flow of current. Next slide, please. This is what happened last 1 January 2023. So it's a bit small. So as you can see, the electrical power coming from either Meralco, which was the primary source, goes through the UPS, and then the panel, the central panel, then passes through the 2 sets of 3 circuit breakers before entering the CNS ATM center. Now, the fault occurred on that was that red circuit breaker that I was pointing out. The fault occurred at that particular circuit breaker. So what happened? This was detected by the UPS because an overvoltage occurred. So, as a safety factor, uh, the UPS, both UPS, de-energized. This is to protect the whole system from further damage.
But you have two UPS systems.
That's correct.
So what happened? After, isn't the UPS also, I was told, like a voltage regulator?
That's correct.
Okay. So the first one detected that there was over voltage, so it shut down. What happened to the second one?
Just to explain, ma'am, this circuit breaker are continuously working and support each other. It shares the load, and if it detects a problem, both of them will work in parallel and will both shut down to protect the system.
But it didn't. So why was that? Supposedly, you had to re-energize. This is from the other information that I've received. You were able to re-energize the second UPS system. What does re-energizing mean? Does it mean you charged it because it was not charged? I mean, in the simplest terms, that's how it seems. But of course, you can shed light.
The UPS, ma'am, just went on standby mode. It did not shut down. It was working. It did what it had to do. So sabay nag-shut down yung dalawang UPS. And as I said earlier, this is a safety feature of the UPS. So what we did and that what the maintenance people did, I will explain later.
Okay,
on.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. Immediate actions undertaken to address the disruption. The first NOTAM was issued at 10:41 a.m., advising airmen that certain Manila approach frequencies were unserviceable due to technical issues. Next slide. Then the engineers from Caap immediately performed remedial measures such as manual re-energization of the UPS and bypassing the damaged circuit breaker, which enabled the power supply to be operated by 1:40 p.m. and resumption of partial operations by 4 p.m. To explain further, the input of the circuit breaker, the one on the left side, upper portion, you will notice that there are 4 cables that went in that are colored red, yellow, and black. Voltage on all of those 3 were measured. This is the input side. I forgot to mention also there is a 4th wire, the white one, on the rightmost, and this is the neutral. So the voltage going in the red, the yellow, and the black is 380 volts. 380 volts, please note. White is neutral. Any of the 3 lines I mentioned connected to white is 220 volts. So individually, if you connect white and red, you get 220 volts, yellow and white 220, and black and white 220 as well. These voltages were measured at the input terminal of the circuit breaker. In the output of the circuit breaker, that's the lower portion, it should have the same voltages. However, the voltage measured between line 3, that's the black line that I pointed out, and neutral is 380 volts instead of 320 volts. 220 volts, correction. To isolate the trouble, a continuity test was done but it was found out that line 3 and neutral has no continuity. Thus, it was concluded that the circuit breaker was damaged. Because of the urgency to restore the power, line 3, that's the black one, and the neutral wires were disconnected from the input terminal and instead connected to the output terminal of the circuit breaker, resulting to having a normal voltage. So pagdating niya, when it was connected below, again, the voltage was measured. This time, it was 220 volts as designed. After getting normal voltages, each circuit breaker of the equipment was turned on to start up the startup procedure was then executed. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, the power supply became operational at 1:40 p.m. and resumption of partial operations at 4 p.m. By 5:50 p.m., VSAT GU1, which is the primary, was operational, which allowed resumption of normal operations. By 10:53 p.m., the VSAT GU2, or secondary, was operational. It acts as a redundant system for VSAT 1. Next slide. Our air traffic controllers reacted swiftly to the disruption as well. They immediately switched to using tunable VHF radio and declared a ground stop to prioritize and safely land all flights that were already queued for landing. A ground stop means no departure. Priority lang yung aircraft that are landing. Using tunable VHF radios, our controllers were able to safely land a total of 39 aircraft despite the disruption. From 9:49 a.m. to 10:09 a.m., 4 aircraft successfully landed in NAIA. From 10:09 a.m. to 11:56 a.m., 20 more aircraft successfully landed at NAIA, while there were 8 that landed in Mactan, Cebu International Airport, in addition to 3 that landed in Iloilo International Airport, 1 in Bacolod, 2 in Davao, and 1 in Clark. Short-term measures. In addition to the damaged circuit breaker, the damaged circuit breaker was successfully replaced. So we were able to install that circuit breaker and restore normal operations as well. Next slide. Efforts to procure a backup system for the CNS ATM. DOTR and Caap is planning to procure a second CNS ATM, which will act as a redundant system for the existing ATMC. Caap has already initiated measures to ensure systems redundancy and upgrade in the existing CNS ATM. The OTR and Caap met with the representative of the system supplier on 5 January 2023 to finalize the terms. Target completion is the first quarter of 2023. That ends my presentation, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing me to present this on behalf of CAAP.
Thank you, Captain Tamayo. I would like General Hotchkiss to later on his observation because he's also familiar with this. But before I hand on the questioning to my colleagues here, I would like to ask, this equipment is from Thales and Sumitomo, am I correct?
That's correct.
The
That's
CNS
correct, Your
ATM
Honor.
system.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Do they do regular maintenance service?
The CNS ATM had a warranty that expired in 2020, and it is only up to that time that they were providing support as far as the CNS ATM is concerned.
So what you're saying is from 2020 until 2023, there's been no maintenance. Wala pong maintenance dahil nag-expire na ang inyong maintenance agreement or warranty with Sumitomo and Thales. Am I correct?
Our personnel, ma'am, our technicians in Caap are qualified and well trained to maintain the system. In fact, they were trained by Thales themselves, aside from CAAP. They are well experienced. They've been with Caap for some time, so they are the ones maintaining the ATMC.
But there should also be an audit of this. As what I heard is the UPS system, one of the blowers had a problem, maingay na daw. So that could have led to something. But the UPS system is maintained by another company. Am I correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
What company is this
Uh,
again?
the-
K something ba?
It's P2RO, ma'am.
P2RO, which is a
Yes.
Filipino company, right?
Yes, yes.
And
ma'am.
when was the last time they checked the UPS system?
The last time they checked the UPS system was 2 years ago when they changed the batteries.
Alam mo, parang yung mga ganyan, 2 years is too long, you know? I mean, this is just what I think at the top of my head. But maybe we can ask Sumitomo and Thales if this is normal procedure, if you feel confident that the CAP technicians can do the regular maintenance checks. Can we have Sumitomo first and then Thales?
A pleasant afternoon, Your Honor.
Attorney Lim,
Yeah,
yes.
Lloyd from...
But you're a lawyer, but do you know the technical details of this?
Medyo po, kahiligan lang po.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, ideally, there should be some regular maintenance aside from battery check. But DG Tamayo is correct when he says they actually have qualified people inside Caap who's been working with Caap for a while, who should be able to maintain by themselves, no? But if they prefer to have, and I agree totally with you as well, having a third party come in, experts such as P2RO supplier, would be beneficial.
For example, how about Thales? What is your analysis on this, Mr. Nusk?
Yeah,
Nusky?
so good afternoon, Madam Chairman. So Towers are not the supplier of the UPS system, so we don't have particular expertise in that area. We are the supplier of the air traffic management system, so I'm unable to comment on your question.
All right, thank you. For example, like if I'll give an analogy, parents can really look at their children and determine if they're sick. Just use a temperature, a thermometer to take their temperature, etc. But there's also a regular time that you visit the pediatrician to check. And I think Attorney Lim is correct that we should have at least a third party look into whatever equipment we have. Hindi naman pwede. Kaya nga, kahit yung oil change, ginagawa rin sa kasa, hindi naman tayo lang ang tumitingin. Ang dinig ko, may utang pa raw tayo sa ibang providers natin. This is true? Sumitomo or Thales, do we owe you 1 billion pesos?
Your Honor, hindi naman po ganun kalaki. But we're working it out with the current administration, and it's going smoothly. So hopefully we'll be able to close that out. And
How much do we owe you? Kasi kami, sa amin rin dadaan yan if ever walang pera yung Caap.
may budget po yan. It's actually DOTR po. Yeah, so
Yeah,
our
from there,
project is-
which we also give them.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, if you don't have the exact figures, please submit to the committee what that is so we can look into that. If you notice, ladies and gentlemen, this has been ongoing since 2001. The study began in 2001. It was approved by NADA in 2009, after which I I guess there was a wrench was thrown into to it because it was disapproved by I believe COA or NEDA again in 2011, and then it resumed in 2013. And the reason later on, we'll get into this. Because can you imagine just upgrading a system or installing it takes more than a decade. There's a 511 million Manila Area Control Center currently gathering dust in Caap compound since 2011. Because apparently whoever was in the DOTR at the time, they opted to get a Czechoslovakian supplied air traffic management system. And a lot, including the ANSU, CAP itself, protested against it because it's untested and unreliable. So after that, bumalik na naman tayo sa Sumitomo. Parang ganun yung naging nung administration na yon. So mamaya, kasi nga, what we have to focus on here, no, we will ask from General Hotchkiss what happened there, but the focus now is the safety. But that's a brief background. And the reason I also invited Secretary Tugade here is I think you've been receiving unfair reports. I'm actually here to give you the opportunity to clarify. Because in my readings, hindi naman po napunta sa mga aesthetic projects, napunta naman talaga sa dapat mapuntahan. So, para wag ka nang mag-isip ko nang sasabihin mo, we're okay na. I just wanted to give you that opportunity. Let's continue now if there are questions. Senator Jinggoy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to ask direct my questions to the officials of the Department of Transportation. Maybe Captain Tamayo may answer this. Last January 1, you mentioned, I don't know who amongst the officials of the DOTR mentioned, that it was the UPS that malfunctioned. And now, your letter addressed to Senator Grace Poe, you mentioned that it was the circuit breaker that malfunctioned. Ano ba talaga?
Stop the timer. Okay, go ahead.
As I mentioned earlier, Your Honor, the initial indication was the circuit breaker went on standby. So, the UPS went on standby, hence there was no power going in. So, there was a series of tests that was done by the technicians, and they decided to restart or re-energize the circuit breaker. So, the UPS. So, this was now working. So, all the while, may kuryente na. So, we were happy with that because we just had to wait for the re-initialization of the system para operational. But it turned out after Powerus was allowed to energize the CNS ATM, the people inside the equipment building detected a burning smell or something in the equipment. So what they did, they immediately turned off all the circuit breakers inside that equipment room to protect the whole system from further damage. So ganun ho ang nangyari doon. So kala namin, the first defect was the UPS. So yun ho una lumabas, but then troubleshooting occurred until they found out na yun hong circuit breaker pala ang nagkakos nung shutdown.
Bakit ngayon nyo lang nalaman after 8 days? Bakit ngayon nyo lang nalaman ng circuit breaker ang may diferensya?
Hindi po. If I may, we found out on the same day.
Kaya on the same day?
Yes, sir.
Ngayon lang kayo sumulat kay Senator Grace January 9 na circuit breaker ang may diferensya.
It occurred on January 1 din po.
Wala pong proper maintenance ang circuit breaker?
The circuit breaker has minimum maintenance actually. Ang ginagawa lang ho ng mga technicians dyan is to check yun ho mga nuts kanina na nakita natin. They make sure it is tight. They make sure the voltage passes through it and there is continuity. The circuit breakers are still units, sir.
How did you fix the faulty circuit breaker?
We replaced it, sir.
Did you make any upgrade?
No, sir.
You
Exactly the
just fixed
same.
it?
Exactly the same.
Is there a backup system?
This circuit breaker, sir, marami. As I illustrated earlier, bago pumasok po doon, 3 pa ang circuit breakers, and then each of the equipment has its own circuit breaker itself. Aside from that, there are 2 panels for redundancy.
You mentioned on the same day that it was the circuit breaker that malfunctioned.
That's correct, sir.
Why did you report to our chairperson only now that it was the circuit breaker that malfunctioned?
I would like to apologize, sir, for the late submission to the
Kasi
chairperson.
pagkakalam namin, UPS ang nag-malfunction.
Yes, sir.
Ngayon sinasabi mo circuit breaker. Are you incompetent?
My apologies, sir.
Okay, when was the system purchased?
As I mentioned earlier, the project started in 2010, and finally it was inaugurated in 2018.
2018. How much? This
About
was?
rough ballpark figures are 10 billion pesos.
Who evaluated the system? Were expert hired for this purpose?
That's correct, sir. A feasibility study was done.
Who recommended the procurement to procure the system?
That was in early 2010, sir. I think that was DOTC at that time. When the project-
DOTC.
Yes, sir. The project started.
Okay, I'll get back to you, Captain Tamay. Secretary Tugade, I think according to our chairperson that there were unfair reports that you diverted the 13 billion allotted to Caap. Now it's your time to explain if you diverted the 13 billion or not.
With the permission of the Honorable Chair and the members of the Public Services Committee, I would like to extend my appreciation and gratitude for the opportunity that has been given to me to be present today, to be able to explain certain issues and matters which unfortunately were so unsavory that perked me up and woke me up in my retirement moments. Nagulat at nagulantang ho ako nung sinabi nila, 2 issue ho yan. Una ho, may diversyon. Pangalawa ho, yung sistema is outdated and outmoded. Marami nagsasabi, hindi ko sinabi yan. Nakikita ko lang po yun sa Facebook, sa social media, sa mga dyaryo. Kung totoo o hindi yun, hindi ko alam. Ngayon ho, nandito ako upang ipaliwanag ang mga bagay-bagay, upang magbigay kaliwanagan sa mga nakikita natin sa Facebook, social media at pahayagan. Una ho, sa diversion of funds. Ang sabi po nila, may diversion of 13 billion. Una ho, nag-isip ako, saan nanggaling yung figure na 13 billion? Pagkakalam ko, kung proyekto at proyekto lang ang pag-uusapan, ang amount involved is around 10.3 billion. Nasaan yung 2.7 billion? Hindi ko alam. Ngayon, doon sa diversion, alam nyo, yung salitang diversion, merong unsavory connotation yan eh. Para kang may ginawang ililipat mo yung pera at ginawa mong pondo para sa ibang mga project na dapat gastusin mo sa mga proyektong kinauukulan. Yun ho ang hindi magandang tema dyan. Wala hong na-divert pagkat ang project ng CNS-ATM is what we call a loan-funded project. Ibig sabihin, yung proseso niyan na ang nangangasiwa is JICA, hindi ho pumunta sa amin yung pera niyan. Bago ka makakuha ng pera dyan, marami kang submission na gagawin sa paniniwala at approval ng JICA. Kahigpit-higpit ho ng JICA. Wala ho sa amin yung pera. May proseso ho dyan kung kailan i-release. Rini-release ba yung pera sa DOTR? Hindi po. Rini-release yan sa mga kontraktor. Sa ganung pamaraan, at yun naman ang panukala at pamaraan dito sa proyektong ito, wala pong pagkakataon o oportunidad man lang na mag-divert ka. Diretso yan na pupunta sa mga kontraktor. Ngayon, kung ang sasabihin mo dinivert yung GAA, funded, budgeted project, isipin ho natin na yung Caap is an autonomous independent body. GOCC, may sariling budget ho yan. Na hindi ka pwedeng magpalipat-lipat dyan. Criminal ho yan. At abogado rin ho naman tayo, hindi naman ho tayo gagawa ng ganyang kalokohan. Ang alam ko lang ho, there was once upon a time in 2018, a budgeted amount of 100, don't hold me to the numbers, 120 or 180 million, precisely for maintenance, administration, security, and operation of the CNS ATM. Bakit ho may ganyan? Papaliwanag ko lang ho. Kanina natanong, ano ang nangyari nung natapos may award yung CNS ATM? Meron hong pinirmahan na certificate of turnover na tinatawag. Gawain ho ng Thales na i-maintain yan under warranty for a period of 2 years. Tama ho kayo, Madam Chair, na after 2 years, wala na. Bakit nagtuloy-tuloy? Sino ang nangangasiwa? Sino ang nag-maintain? May papel ho ako ditong tangan. Ang nag-maintain ho, babasahin ko lang po, Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
I, as Director General of Caap, confirmed that Caap has accepted and taken over the new CNS ATM project, Package 1 Facilities, Properties, 16 October 2017, and listen to this. And from that date, will be responsible, listen to this, for the administration, security, operations, and maintenance of facilities and properties. Pinirmahan ho ito ni Mr. Sijonko noong panahon na yon, under the recommendation of the then USEC for aviation in the person of Mr. Iski Tamayo. Ito ho yung pinirmahan niya. May endorsement ho yan, yung tinatawag natin na contractor na tumutulong sa DOTR. Ang pangalan po, if I may read, Madam Chair, Dr. Yukinori Otani. Siya ho yung consultant nung proyekto na ito na nagsabing na nag-witness nung turnover na yon. In other words, it is true that Thales stopped its operation and maintenance after 2 years because that is their warranty. But Caap assumed the responsibility of taking full responsibility on maintenance, operation, administration, even security of the system. Kailangan ho yan tuloy-tuloy. Tama rin ho na kailangan meron kang core of skillful engineers that will help to manage the CNS ATM. Kasi nga ho, binit-bit ang responsibilidad ng Caap yan. Marami hong nandiyan sa Caap ngayon na alam itong dokumentong ito. Nagulantang at nagugulat lang ako na hindi sinasabi. Nandiyan, of course, si Mr. Sijonko, nandiyan si Mr. Tamayo, nandiyan din ho yung Danjon Lucas na siya ho yung chief of staff nila si Jonko at Tamayo. Lahat ho dapat yan ilinalatag at linalabas dito para maintindihan ng totoo at lubusan ng committee ito. Hindi ho pinabayaan ng Thales yung maintenance. Ito ho, dapat ituloy. Kaya lang, tapos na yung warranty. Kailangan mag-take over, natapos siya ng 220. Ngayon, bakit hindi tinutuloy ng Thales sa Sumitomo yung maintenance? Kasi ho, gusto nilang pumirma ng service agreement. Alam din ni Mr. Sijonko yan, alam ni Mr. Tamayo, alam ni Dan Lucas. Kasi ho, meron silang claim. Mga claim ho yan, hindi uutang yan. Claim ng Thales Sumitomo. Ito, humigit kumulang, please don't hold me to the number, mga 640 million ang kine-claim nila. Remember, this project has been born and begotten years ago. na wala pa kami, kaya humihingi kami ng mga dokumento. Hindi ako papayag dyan kung hindi nyo may submit yung dokumento. Sabi rin yung contractor na hapon, huwag mong bayaran kasi walang dokumento. Bakit ko ho babayaran? Ngayon, sinasabi nila, kung hindi mo binabayaran, wala ng service agreement. Huwag mo naman ako hostage dyan, kaibigan. Wala kami ng mga panahon na yon. Liwanagin natin yan. Kaya nga ho, meron akong pinapirma sa Caap na sila ang mga ngasiwa sa Maintenance Administration and Security. Naniwala ho ako sa dokumento na yan. Now, nagkaroon ho ng diskusyon with Thales and Sumitomo. Ano yung diskusyon with Thales and Sumitomo? Sabi namin, kung gusto mo, out of good faith, babayaran ko na yung mga issues na walang problema na kumpleto ang dokumento. Pag-usapan natin, yung balanse, punta tayo sa arbitration. Nabinbin ho ang usapan. Walang nangyari. Nag-create ho ako ng internal committee sa DOTR para tignan yung claims ng Thales Sumitomo. This committee was composed of 3 gentlemen in DOTR. Number 1 is Yusek Gary, nandito ho siya ngayon. Dati siyang Yusek for Finance. Nandiyan yung dating ASEC ng procurement at project implementation, si Mr. Banoy Lopez. Yung Gary ho, de Guzman ang apelyido nun. Yung pangatlo, si Renier Yebra, na head ng legal. Sila ho ang nagsabi sa akin, alam mo ba, huwag mong bayaran yan. Bakit? Kasi mas malaki pa yung liquidated damages because of the delay on the project. Bakit ko mababayaran yan? So, hindi ho utang yon. Yun ho, claim na pinag-usapan at pinag-uusapan. Dapat ho yan umandar at umusad nung umalis kami 6 months ago. Alam ho yan ni Mr. Sichonko, ni Danjon Lucas, at alam din ni Mr. Tamayo yan.
Secretary Tugade, so ang sinasabi ninyo, dahil na-delay yung implementation ng proyekto, nagkaroon tayo ng binabayaran na parang penalty.
Meron dapat silang bayaran ng penalty ho. Ang tawag ko dyan, liquidated damages na babayaran ng kwan.
Because of the delay that we caused.
Hindi ho. Because of certain delays also sa Thales, saka sa Sumitomo.
Okay.
Kaya nga sabi ko, yung amount na wala tayong issue, bayaran na namin kayo. I-recommenda ko sa JICA, bayaran kayo. And sabi ko naman ng iba, huwag mong bayaran. Kailangan bayaran mo yung buo. Sabi nung committee ko, yung 3 abogado, mas malaki pa yung claim namin dyan sa liquidated damages. Bakit ako magbabayad? Maliwanag kung plunder yan. Hindi ko gagawin yun.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Senator Jinggoy. Yung sinasabi ninyong pinirmahan na turnover to Caap, sino yung pumirma nun? Hindi yun sa administrasyon pa ninyo?
Hindi ho. Administration ko yan. Pinapirma ko sila kasi ite-turn over na. Sabi ko kay Mr. Sijonko, pumirma kayo dyan na kaya yung administration and maintenance nung CNS-ATM. Pumirma ho sila. Bakit sila pumirma? Inirekomenda ho ni Mr. Tamayo. Ito ho yung pirma niya.
Okay. All right, now that's clear. Thank you, Senator
Madam
Jinggoy.
Chairwoman, can I have a,
Sorry. With
the permission of Senator Jinggoy.
surrender
Yes, please
as part of
furnish
our
the committee a copy. We appreciate it.
Mrs. Sabina?
Senator Villar.
I'd just like to say something because point of information, because I've also had experience with foreign loans. And what SecArt said is correct, that when there is a foreign funded project, they are very strict about the requirements. You cannot simply take the money and use it for another project. That's impossible. So I hope this puts that issue to rest. And also, no secretary has the power to realign funds within his department. As you know, it is our mandate to implement what is in the CAA, which is a law. So this idea that Secretary Tugade would divert funds from one project to another is simply impossible. And from my experience serving in the executive, I just like to support that fact. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Senator Villar. You have 19 more seconds, Senator Jinggoy.
Parang bitin na. Anyway, going back to Caap, thank you very much for the explanation, Secretary Tugade, and I believe in you. I believe
Maraming salamat po.
I trust you, and you have my full trust and confidence. Anyway,
Thank you very
Captain,
much, sir.
Tamayo, meron bang pangyayari na bago nangyari itong January 1 glitch? Meron ba nangyari na power outage before?
None, Your Honor, to the chair.
None.
This is the first time it happened.
Sigurado ka nan.
Sa CNS ATM po.
And no September of 2022, nagkaroon ng power outage sa Terminal 3. Am I correct?
That is Terminal 3, sir.
Yes, Terminal 3.
That's not correct, sir. That's the airport.
Bakit sinabi mo wala?
I'm only referring to the CNS ATM. Sir.
No, whatever. Power outage pa rin yun.
Okay, yes, sir.
What did you do there? Nagkaroon na ng president, whatever, na nagkaroon na ng power outage no September sa NAIA Terminal 3. What actions have you taken to prevent similar recurrence? Bakit nangyari ulit ito? Hindi ba kayo nadala na nagkaroon na tayo ng power outage noong September last year?
Through the chair, Your Honor, may I request the GM of NAIA to explain this?
Mr. Chong, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, yes, Your Honor, yes, there was an outage at NAIA Terminal 3. It lasted for about 6 hours. Actually, ma'am, the standby generator was able to power up naman po. It's just that there were some critical mission items that were not connected to the standby generator. And that was the immigration connection po. That's why there were some queues. But what happened, ma'am, there were only about 20 flights that were affected. And actually, na-restore naman po siya after a few hours. And there was no outage that happened after.
So did you learn your lesson there? You have the contingencies in place already, na-connect na ninyo yung immigration.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Jinko, if you need an extension, one
Wala
more
na
minute.
akong oras. Just bibigyan ko na iba.
What a gentleman. Okay, ipagpapatuloy the next round. The next is the good one, Senator, the Vice Chair. No, di ba sabi niya, the better one yung isa, di ba? Kasi so, the good one naman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Anyway, just be centering on 3 points. One is the safety protocols, what our Caap personnel did, and also the air traffic management system. And last but not the least will be on the issue of national defense. So first, probably the Caap can answer with regards to the safety protocols. So, sa ating Director General, who was the incident commander during the time that the power outage happened? Was there an incident commander?
The head technician or manager of the CNS ATM is with us. He is Engineer Arnold Balukatin, and he is the one supervising the maintenance and repairs.
No, my concern is we will go to the equipment later.
Yes, sir.
My concern will be on the safety protocols. I'd like to know because this happened during the peak season, and as we know that agencies that are very vital sa atin po ang ating pag po lahat nag-holiday, tayo po walang holiday. Does Caap do you still grant leave during the peak season o hindi, wala, cancel ang lahat ng leave during the peak season?
Wala pong leave, Your Honor.
So that means
My
during the
policy.
incident, during the New Year's Day incident, lahat po ng CAP officials were present and walang nakalib.
That's correct, sir. I was there right away as well.
Well, that is good to hear, our Director General. So who was the incident commander doon po sa air traffic control?
As I mentioned, si Arnold Balucatin, who is the head of the ANS.
And is he present?
He is present.
Okay, can we ask him to take the floor?
Also, sir, at the time, Miss Marlene Singson, who is the head of the air traffic service, was also present at the time.
Sige po, is he present? Pwede bang ano? Ay ma'am, sige po, can you please narrate to the committee what were the first protocols, were the safety and protocols followed, strictly followed?
Through the chair. So I would just want to clarify, do I need to take a note because I was not among those who took the oath earlier?
Si Comsec, andiyan pa si Comsec. Can you please administer the oath?
Ma'am, please, research persons, please raise your right hand. Please repeat after me. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this committee hearing?
I do.
For the record, Mr. Chair, the research persons answered the affirmative. Hello.
Sorry for the glitch. Anyway, ma'am, again, please narrate. You were in charge. You were the system. You were the incident commander during the time.
Through the chair. During the outage, sir, being the chief of air traffic service, yes, I took responsibility and accountability for the provision of safe and orderly air traffic service po throughout the Philippines. And on that particular day, as the commander for the air traffic service, as the chief, we have immediately implemented the contingency plans that we have. Actually, sir, prior to this, well-placed po ang contingency plan ng air traffic service. We cover certain emergencies, including the big one. So with that, sir, nakasynchronize na po yung actions to be taken for situations like this.
Ma'am, ang napansin ko lang po, yung nota mo, yung notice the airmen were only issued at 10:41 a.m. What time was the system failure? What time did it happen? Around 9 o'clock, 9:30. So how come it took a while for the NOTAMs to be issued?
Actually, sir, the blackout of the screens, the radar screens that we had happened at 9:49. The NOTAM was issued. Ang situation, or rather the protocol that we have in the issuance of the NOTAM, we do not immediately issue a NOTAM. A NOTAM should cover a certain period of time po. We initially issue advisory, sir. But if the situation would reach an hour or two, then we issue the notice to airmen, sir. And the usual channel we used in the issuance of the NOTAM was included in the ATMC. So we resorted to the backup plan that we have for the contingency plan using another server, another system we call CADAS.
So yung pong backup no, that we've been hearing, it did not work, hindi po gumana yung backup natin for the ATS.
Actually po, we do not have an independent backup system for the CNS ATM. We have one CNS ATM, sir.
That is correct, because I'll go to that later on, Madam Chair, no, to my second round. We had talked about the redundancy. So doon po sa you follow the safety and contingency protocols, but just like to know if are we prepared for the worst case scenario, no? Sa mga ganito, just in case the worst happens, just like this one that the whole system broke down, no? Nawala yung system. Meron ba training? How often does the air traffic management officers, the dating mga ATCs, are we prepared for such a scenario?
Through the chair, the basic training we also include in the syllabus is the training for contingency plans, for training in the specific facility where the air traffic management officers are deployed, have the respective training for rating, and this also includes contingency plans, sir. That's the reason why we were able, despite the fact that the ATMC is down and out, we were able to safely guide and control aircraft to land in several airports in the Philippines.
Because Madam Chair, if you allow me, just like to finish this, no? There was also information from one that when kasama puro sa CNS, no? That's communication, navigation, and surveillance. So also the communication system of the whole aerodrome was out. No? Nawala po sila. Even yung nag-take off po, yung huling nag-take off, pinaswitch sila doon sa approach, communication, wala na po daw. So, tama po ba nangyari ito?
Through the chair. Actually, sir, within the Air Traffic Management Center, we have the entire en route area control center. We have 6 surveillance approach facilities inside also the ATMC. And the first step in the contingency plan that we have is to communicate with the nearest air traffic service. So we did that one, sir. We called by phone because all the lines are out. We used the mobile phones, and we found out the Manila Control Tower is still up and about. That's the reason we immediately sent 3 approach controllers and 3 en route controllers to handle the traffic within the terminal movement area, the TMA, which is about 70 nautical miles from the airport reference point. And for the en route controllers, they handle the traffic outside of the 70 nautical miles, sir. And we even transferred the traffic to Bacolod. That's the reason we have 2 arrivals in Iloilo and Bacolod. We have traffic in Mactan. One of the things that we did during this pandemic was to have the proficiency training of air traffic controllers nationwide, sir. That's the reason we were able to revalidate and easily implement the contingency plans that we have. Thank you, sir.
So after the whole air traffic management system already was shut down, we reverted back to our conventional. That is, you made use of the air traffic control, which used yung conventional VHF radio.
VHF radio.
VHF radio.
Yes.
So the whole time that the CNS was out, we reverted back to conventional. That probably yung sa that prevented a disaster or a catastrophe. I'd like to, Madam Chair, I'd like to commend our air traffic controllers who were present. That para kang bulag nun eh. Not at this day and present age, Madam Chair, if the CNS conks out, napakahirap nun, hindi alam. All the pilots, all the aircraft in the aerospace, in the aerodrome, do not know where the others are. Tama po, di ba?
Yes po, sir.
So, you reverted back to conventional and like ano tayo, no? We relied on the communication and at the same time yung tawag nun, yung conventional communication. So pinatakbo nyo po yung mga air traffic controllers that are assigned doon sa approach, and sila po ang nag-control sa ATC. How long is that? Gano'ng kalayo? Kasi malayo yung center to the air traffic control tower.
Actually, the ATMC po is located within the compound of the CAAP, and Manila Tower po is located within the Terminal 2 complex. So using their personal motorcycles, it only took them a few minutes to reach Manila Control Tower, sir. And by the time they have reached Manila Control Tower, the tunable radios were already adjusted to the frequency that they will be using. And we have already given released blind transmission for aircraft within this particular airspace to contact 119.3. For traffic on 118.3, which the frequency used by Manila Tower, we have sequenced them to land using procedural conventional po. The same is true with the traffic within the 70 nautical miles. I would just want to point out, sir, that because we do not have visibility because of the outage of the radar scopes, the SSR, ang ibig pong sabihin ng conventional, procedural, mas malalayo po ang separation ng mga aircraft to ensure that there will be a safe operations po. Thank you, sir.
So that means that most of the aircraft airborne had to mag-switch tayo sa VOR, no? Sa VOR, that yun yung ang nag-guide sa lahat ng ating po mga existing or arriving aircraft.
Sir, actually po, we have communications with the aircraft, with the pilots. So the clearances that we have given them, yun po yung nag-guide sa kanilang papunta sa mga airports, sir. And using also our personal mobile phones, we were able to get in touch with our counterparts outside of the Philippines, like Hong Kong, Singapore, Ujong Pandang, and all the other FIRs adjacent to us to advise them that we are having a trouble with our system, and that to hold flights going to Manila or accommodate flights that are already within the range. So ganun po yung aming contingency talaga po. And right now, sir, because of the certain things that we have discovered during this incident, we are beefing up the contingency plan that we have, and we have several meetings in order to revise our emergency response plan. Thank you po.
Yun na.
Okay. Mukhang na tayo rin kailangan magpa-maintenance check. So importante talaga na regularly check. Now, I'd like to thank, well, of course, our air traffic controllers, the unsung heroes behind this, and all the behind the scenes that they had to go through riding a motorcycle to reach another location. And this also calls into mind the importance of keeping good people at work in the air traffic control towers. And we are experiencing apparently a brain drain because yung sweldo po nila napakababa ikumpara sa ibang bansa. Kaya nga dito sa Caap improvement, the proposed bill, one of the provisions I think is to remove air traffic controllers and the ones that have to do technical work away from the salary standardization law so that their compensation can be competitive. Hindi sila nakapako dun sa regular na government salaries. I would like to acknowledge, I guess, the majority leader who requested, and our pro temp so graciously agreed that he be allowed to speak first. No, not the majority leader. I'm sorry, our Is it the Senate President who asked? Oh, okay. Okay, I guess not. Then our pro temp is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. On third try. Gusto ko lang po basahin ng ilang parte ng report po nyo kay Senator Po para po maliwanagan ang hindi mga technical, para po maintindihan natin, para maiwasan na mangyari po ng muli. To summarize the timeline, Caap said that the 2 UPS of the CNS ATM did not shut down, as you've been saying for the past 60 minutes. It was receiving power, it was de-energized, and this is part of a safety feature. Tama ba ho, Captain Tamayo? Para lang pong maliwanag ang ating pinag-uusapan po. Tama po. Okay po. You can nod kung wala pong audio. Ito pong de-energization ay safety feature at sabi po dito, ang flow, ang pagkakamali ay isang faulty signal na sira po yung damaged circuit breaker. Tama pa ho? Okay. Ano po ang ibig sabihin niyan na maayos po yung dalawang UPS? Ayon po sa mga unang report na lumabas na nawalan sila ng power, hindi po power outage, hindi po nanggaling sa anumang power source na nawala, pero circuit breaker po ang damage. Pakipaliwanag po sa amin, ano ang ibig sabihin ng damaged circuit breaker? Bakit po nasira? Ano po yung pagkasira? Sino po ang dapat nagme-maintain ng circuit breaker na yon? At wala ba hong pangalawang circuit breaker? Di ba na-anticipate natin pag may masira, meron po pangalawa or pangatlo, yung tinatawag pong redundancy. My very simple questions, I'm sure Captain Tamayo and all the Caap and DOTR can answer this. Para po maliwanag sa mga hindi technical na tao. Salamat. Captain Tamayo, please. Can we ask the Senate Maintenance to handle this, please?
Yes, our Majority Leader.
I have audio. There must be a working microphone there. Pahiram po nyo kay Captain Tamayo. Kung ano pong gumagana dyan.
Yes.
Sabi ni Senator Mark Villar, pag walang maintenance, yan ang nangyayari. Sige. This one is working. Simpleng tanong lang po, Captain Tamayo. Opo.
Madam Chair, I would like to request to display the one-line diagram to give more clarification in my explanation.
My simple question, sir, was there was a flawed or a damaged circuit breaker. Pag sinami po natin yung salitang damage, very general. Ano po ang ibig sabihin damage? Ano yung pagkasira? Ito ba'y bago, luma? Ito ba'y mine-maintain? Wala bang backup na circuit breaker? Dapat backup 1, 2, 3 for redundancy.
Okay.
Sige, pwede pong may letrato po. Gusto lang po namin marinig.
Apa,
Sir.
Okay, ano pa? Okay. Yung one-line diagram, please. One-line diagram. Okay. Ito po yung ano natin, power one-line diagram po ng power supply natin sa CNS ATM building. Kung kanina po sinabi po ng ating Director General na mayroon pong commercial input galing po sa Meralco at mayroon din pong generator as backup po. Doon pong nangyari po yung incident, nung dumating kami sa site, ang initial findings po namin, wala pong output yung UPS. So ang ginawa po namin ay nagkanda kami ng troubleshooting. We follow the protocol of troubleshooting until such a time na nagkaroon po ang output ng UPS. Alas 12 po ng tanghali nung nagkaroon po kami ng output ng UPS. So, nung mayroon pong output na po yung UPS, yung mga tao namin sa kabilang building, dito po sa Air Traffic Management Building, nagsimula na po yung startup procedure na sinasabi. Unti-unti na pong inon yung mga circuit breaker. Tapos until such time na mayroon pong isang circuit breaker sa mga equipment na nung inon nila, mayroon po yung mga may nag-spark at may nangamoy. So ang ginawa po nila, pinatay nila ulit yung pong isang sirkito. Kung nakikita po sa diagram po, yung pong kulay pula. Yan. Pero yung pong mayroong mga red na tatlo, diretso po yun. Mayroon na pong kuryente yon. At yun po nagsimula yung na-operate po namin yung equipment na Tagaytay facility base. So at 12 o'clock, mayroon na pong kuryente yung ibang equipment. Ngayon po, ito po ngayon, mayroong sirang circuit breaker, dito po kami nag-focus. Dito po namin nalaman na yung pong isang circuit breaker ay nasira. So, tulad po in-explain po kanina ng aming Director General, yung circuit breaker po ay mayroong 4 po na line. So mayroon yung line 1, line 2, line 3, yung po yung mga between them, mayroong 380 volts, at saka between neutral at saka yung isang line is 220 volts. Pero pagdating po sa baba, doon po sa output, yung isang pasi po ay naging 380. So para ma-determine pa namin yung ma-validate namin yung nakita naming problema na yon, inoff namin yung input voltage doon, tapos nag-conduct po kami ng continuity test. At nalaman po namin ngayon na yung input at saka output po ng pangatlong linya, yung L3, ay open. Tapos po yung neutral, open din po. So, tapos yun po yung tapos nasukat po namin na 380 volts yung sinusupply po nung linyang yon. So, diyan po kami ngayon nag-decide na i-bypass po yung circuit breaker, yung dalawang line po. Kasi kailangan po namin ma-provide yung kuryente para sa mga equipment na nakakonekta doon. So, ulitin ko po, alas 12 po, mayroon na pong kuryente yung isang sirkito. Kaya lang po, ang pinoprovide po na kuryente, ang mga equipment na mayroong kuryente ay yung mga Tagaytay base at iba.
Salamat po. Maliwanag po na sabi nyo nasira ang isang circuit breaker. Tapos sinabi po nyo nag-oversupply, kaya po nasira. Correct? That's your explanation of the damage. Was there no voltage regulator to control the influx of the power? And my question earlier was, wala pa po tayong substitute, pangatlong circuit breaker para kung isa yung nasira, meron kaagad na pwedeng gamitin para may continuity po yung enerhiya.
Madam Chair, yung pong UPS po ay isang function po niya yun ay voltage regulator. Ibig sabihin po yung lumalabas po doon sa UPS ay maayos na po yung malinis na po yung kuryente na lumalabas sa UPS. At na-measure din po namin dito sa input ng circuit breaker na tama po yung mga voltahe. Kaya lang paglabas po ng circuit breaker, yung pong isang pasi po, 380 volts po ang nasukat namin.
Simple po. ano po ang kadahilanan noon at paano natin masusuri, how can we be assured that this 380 surge in that particular circuit breaker will not happen again? What is the contingency? That's why a non-technical person like myself wants to understand it. If the UPS were both receiving power, it was not a power outage, it was a circuit breaker. And that circuit breaker received more power than it actually had to receive, which is 380. How do we assure that there's no upsurge of power again? And what is a contingency measure that must be done so this does not occur? That's my simple question, sir.
Your Honor, what we have done is to replace the circuit breaker. Pinalitan po namin ng maayos ng circuit breaker. Ang nangyari po kasi nung nagkaroon ng 380 volts, mayroon pang nasirang mga equipment dito sa downstream. So yun po yung nagprolong po ng outage.
Paano po natin maiiwasan na masira ng muli ang circuit breaker na hindi po magkakaroon ng oversupply na nakakaapekto po sa iba dahil pong masyadong sumobra? Hindi ba po voltage regulator ang tawag doon? Hindi ako technical, pero sa bahay, di ba, may circuit breaker, may voltage regulator, di ba ho? Tama po. Gusto ko lang po maintindihan, paano natin maiiwasan pong mangyari ng muli? Yun lang po ang ating assurance na gustong marinig.
Yung UPS po, sabi ko nga kanina po, mayroon pong regulator. So yung pong ang kwan po is yung piniperform po namin yung recommended practices ng pag-maintain po ng equipment. Ngayon po, lumabas po yung incident. So siguro ang gagawin po namin is i-double time po yung pag-check namin ng mga circuit breaker para ma-anticipate po namin yung mga possible na mangyari po.
Who is responsible for maintaining the circuit breakers? Which supplier provided it, and which company is maintaining it, and when was it last maintained, sir?
Your Honor, yung pong circuit breaker po ang nagmi-maintain po ay yung mga ENS personnel po na under po sa akin. Yung mga pag-check po ay ginagawa po nila. Nagmi-measure po sila ng mga voltahe at tinitingnan nila kung properly working yung mga circuit breaker. Ang manufacturer po niyan is LS Electric, Korean made po yan. Yung mga equipment po niyan, ang lifespan po niyan ay 20 to 30 years at saka ang trip cycle po niyan ay nasa 20,000 trip cycle. Ibig sabihin po pag nag-trip, yun mo, bibilangin po yun mga 20,000 po yung manufacturer's data po. So napakaliit po yung parang required maintenance po dyan sa circuit breaker na yan.
With the indulgence of our Senate President Pro engineer, tanong ko na, kaya nga circuit breaker yan, pag may surge siya pumasok, mag-disengage so as not to damage the system. So bakit mayroong ganung lumabas na 320 volts? Dapat pag nag-trip yan, 380 to protect the system, di ba? Kaya nga walang hindi naman yan fuse eh. So circuit breaker, pagka nag-trip, pag normal na yung pagpasok ng kuryente, pwede nyo nang i-switch back. So ano po nangyari?
Your Honor, yun po yung isang question mark po sa amin na hindi namin maintindihan. Kaya ang request po namin is i-conduct po ng under forensic examination yung circuit breaker.
Yung sagot po, malakas ang boses ko. Yung sagot po sa katanungan kung bakit po nag-surge ng 380 sa circuit breaker ay hindi po Senate Legislative ang makakasagot po niyan. Sa technical po sa inyo, Siguro po ay yan ang importanteng malaman po natin at ano pang mga aberya ang maaring mangyari at ano ang contingency measures. Nakakapagtaka po dahil sa rekomendasyon po dito ay nakalagay na merong number 18 po, emergency procurement of equipment. Nakalagay po that Caap initiated the emergency procurement of 2 additional UPS, including a 5-year parts and service warranty. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Kung hindi po sira yung UPS and there was no power outage and it was a glitch on a damaged circuit breaker of which we do not know the cause, why are we purchasing a UPS unless that is part of the system and we need to purchase that? Kindly educate us and clarify us whether this emergency procurement will cure that issue of the circuit breaker, sir. Thank you.
Through the chair, ma'am. The plan to purchase this UPS was done because of that initial emergency that occurred. So also, we invited the manufacturer to evaluate circuit breakers and tell us what the conditions are. Kasi how they can use a computer to diagnose and to download whatever data that they need to download to find out what is its condition. So, ang nangyari ho, during the time that we met with them, they informed us that we asked them, ano pang lifespan ng circuit breaker na ganyan? UPS na ganyan. Ang sabi ho sa amin, on the average, ano na yan eh, it should be, because it's so a critical equipment, usually about 7 years, we have to replace it. But then they said, their products can last up to 10 years. So, yung decision ho na yun is based on something that is preventive because the UPS that we have are just about 7 years already. At the same time, nung diniagnose ho nila, although one of it was perfectly okay, yet yung isa ho, sira yung fan motor. So, hindi ho namin ginagamit yan kasi kailangan palitan. Now, so that is the reason how it's more of preventive now.
So, the issue of the emergency procurement of the 2 uninterrupted power supply system, the UPS, is not the answer to the circuit breaker question mark on how there was a surge of 380 that destroyed the other equipment. Ibang problema po. Dalawa po ang ating UPS. Sinabi po dito sa inyong report, hindi po sira in terms of power. Hindi po nawala ng power, pero ang circuit breaker, isa sa inyong letrato ay nasira, pero hindi pa nyo alam po technically yung dahilan, kaya po magfo-forensic po kayo. Para lang maliwanag po sa ating kaisipan. Tama ba ho ang aking pag-intindi?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. So, the emergency procurement is not the answer to the NAIA glitch of January 1, but it is a preventive measure from a possible UPS breakdown. And in this case, there was no problem with the power in the UPS, but it is this question of the circuit breaker. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. I understand it clearly now, but the question mark is whoever can tell us the reason for the circuit breaker issue and what else do we need to do to make sure the circuit breaker is not damaged in the future. And then last question, ano ba ho ang mga aberya na maari pang mangyari na ganito gawin nyo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ano pa ang contingency measures para hindi po mangyari yan? So aside from the UPS, preventive measure, question mark on the circuit breaker, inaamin nyo, mas mabuting mag-amin na kaysa mag-invento tayo ng sagot, hindi pa natin alam kung bakit nag-surge ng sobra yung kuryente, ano ba ho? What else can go wrong and what equipment needs to be done, or what maintenance needs to be done. Which brings me to my last question on the paper read by former Secretary Tugade, that the maintenance is now in-house. Is that, do you recommend that? Or do you recommend that those who supplied, there should be a third-party maintenance? After my questions are answered, I thank you, sir, for finding time, and we would be happy to receive all the answers. Thank you. Isagot po.
So regarding the last question on having a service provider, an outsider, to help us maintain or to provide oversight as far as the maintenance is concerned, we totally agree with you as far as that is concerned. While it is true that our technicians are qualified, experienced, and fully trained, iba pa rin ho yung merong tumitingin from the outside, and that is why we were negotiating with Thales to help us out in providing this particular oversight, since mahirap po yung yung CNS ATM. It's only the OEM, original equipment manufacturer, who can really advise us on what to do. Now, to the chairman, that was discussed earlier, even by the good Secretary Tugade, that we tried negotiating with the supplier, and they are here and they are aware about that we wanted a service contract with them. In fact, they sent us a quotation and the scope of the coverage. Am I right? That was in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So we had a budget for that, specifically for that. And unfortunately, we still had the DOTR and the supplier had and the contractor had still issues on claims and counterclaims. But this is being resolved right now.
It was a 2020 discussion on maintenance of the equipment, and it's 2023 January. 2 years have lapsed and we're still negotiating. In the meantime, sir, the lives of people are at stake. I'm not saying that those maintaining from inside do not know what they're doing, but as you yourself, sir, asserted, it is better that the supplier does their own maintenance. So can we, if we may suggest, wag po natin pabayaan na yung mga supplier ay hindi po accountable sa kanilang sinusupply po sa atin, at hindi siguro tama ang gobyerno, 2 taon, panahon pa ni Secretary Tugade, Sec Tugade, ba't yung pinabayaan po to 2020, and Sec Bautista, both my friends, mula po noong July 1 hanggang ngayon ay nag-uusap pa tungkol sa terms. That's very, very important. Yeah. In the meantime, the question of what happened to the circuit breaker still has not been answered, but I leave it to your better judgment later on after you've done your own scientific technical investigation. Ano po ang talagang kadahilanan? Thank you. So when will you renew, or when will you have the suppliers maintain all your equipment, sir?
As soon as possible, ma'am.
Chair.
Our Majority Leader.
Yes, I am giving way to, of course, our Senate President Pro Tem. I will wait for my turn, Mr. President. Propound on those questions, Madam Chair, if I may. Yeah. The problem is, we
Can
can't
we,
hear you, Madam.
Can I ask for a minute suspension for the technical people to restart our system? Nagka-glitch din po tayo, so kailangan daw i-restart. Just a minute.
Technical.